I am back. It is Monday and another episode of KB's Unemployed Show. Give you some updates on some stuff. You may have been wondering where I've been, and I can fill you in on all of that. And a couple of hot news items, if you will, and some celebrations that we need to talk about. And it all starts when? When does it start? I'll tell you when it starts. It all starts right after this.
It's KB's Unemployed Show. He's unemployed and didn't know what to do, so he started a show. Talks about stuff to kill time. He didn't know what to call it, so he called it KB's Unemployed Show.
All right. KB's Unemployed Show. I'm in the 80s in terms of days that I am unemployed. I'm retiring. Not from this show, but in general. But don't pass this along to my wife. She doesn't know I'm retiring yet, but I'm pretty much retiring. I was talking to some friends of mine who are trying to get jobs, and they're like, some of them that are older, and ageism is a deal. Ageism is a thing, folks. And so I'm not going to get anything decent. So I'm just going to have fun with my life. How about that? My explanation on this is my son, who my wife and I worked our ass off to put him through high school and to put him through college. Now, a lot of people criticized us for sending him to a private high school. And, rightfully so. I mean, there's nothing wrong with where we live with our school system. It just was going to be a better fit for him. And my wife and I are thoroughly convinced that he would not be where he is today had we not done that. So Jesuit high school, Jesuit university, and Jesuit graduate school. So basically that means nothing was on sale. The Jesuits don't offer discounts. The Jesuits, when it comes to education, are basically the Disney of education, right? Everything is exceptionally overpriced, and you don't get any discounts. You never get a break. So looking back at it, there was a point where my wife and I, when he was in high school, were working 6 jobs. I was doing a morning show, going to work during the day, and then teaching at night. And she was picking up jobs here and there and on the weekends and things. So I just said, you know what? We busted our balls for I don't know how long. So I just said, you know what? It's time. I mean, that's why you put money away, right? So it's time for us to, I think it's time for us to hang it up. I'll still do something. Like I said, I'm going to be rangering out at Erin Hills. Just ordered all my clothes. So, which is pretty kick-ass. All of my apparel. So that's one uniform I'm not going to mind wearing to work. I'm not going to mind wearing that uniform when you get a nice, comfortable pair of khaki pants and a golf shirt, maybe a quarter zip. Perfect way to go. But I do want to apologize for last week's technical issues on Thursday. It was just the best. I was just trying to figure stuff out, basically, and not figure stuff out. I recorded with the guest on Wednesday night, and so what I was trying to do, because I taught in the morning, was come back and piece the whole thing together and have it up and just run at 3:00. But it was not cooperating whatsoever. Then I thought it was going to be 3:30 and it wasn't cooperating. And then we're looking at 4:00. And then I just said, screw it. No one is going to really care that I didn't get it done. And so we're back. I'll try and get Nick Lead on some other time in the future, but for that point, from that time, for this period of time, he will not be joining us. Hey, thanks for everybody out there. Yeah, yeah, it is so, Brent. Yeah, technical issues. You know me all too well. Um, my non-compete is 6 months, but I'm not competing because if you notice, I don't talk any sports. Although I'm going to talk about a sports personality today, although I will not be talking sports. How about that? Yeah, but it's 6 months. I can't compete. And you know what? Do you think I'm competing? I mean, I'm really not. If you get right down to it, I'm not competing at all. But it's funny that you bring up the non-compete because I'm looking at about 3 months off the air. Yeah, probably to be 3 months in March, right? I got gunned on December 9th. So March 9th will be 3 months, April, May, June 9th. So June 10th. That's right. So anywho, um, I was out and I was at trivia night. I was at church trivia night, which trivia nights are interesting. And our church trivia night isn't as good as it was before. It was good, but it used to be we had some crazy people that went. There was, and I don't know if you've ever done a church trivia night, but basically what it is. Oh, hold on. You know what I forgot to do? Oh, I got to do this. I got to go welcome our friends on Twitter. Because I forgot to you have to hit go on Twitter now. Oh, it is going live. Well, how about that? I didn't know it was. They said they were having trouble with it going automatically. So, but apparently it is going just fine. Sure enough, there it is. Well, good. Glad to see there's people out there watching. Hey, last week, hey, keep it up, folks, because right now I've got 21 people and Dan O'Donnell's got 5. That's it, only 5. So maybe I am competing. No. Anywho, church trivia, right? So we had our church trivia night. And it used to be a lot more robustly attended. And I can go back and put my finger on, I'm convinced. But anything I think of, I'm convinced of. But I'm pretty sure that the reason that these things don't go well anymore is because you can't get volunteers. And the reason you can't get volunteers, I think the world went bad when we started letting parents buy their way out of volunteering. And you can't convince me otherwise, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't have to go work at the well, it would have been the Bradley Center at the time. I don't have to pull my shift there. I don't have to work at our food fest. I don't have to do any of that if I just give you $25. So, at the time it looked like a good idea, but it's coming back to backfire. So there weren't as many people there. And I remember going back and having a couple of those things that were just out of control. People come in and they dress up, and then you bring your liquor in and hang out and you answer some trivia questions. I got 10 categories and there's 10 questions in each category. We finished dead last, by the way. Absolutely dead last. And I'm okay with that. There is no shame in that game, finishing last in your church trivia. But they always had 10 categories. And, 9 of them everyone knew. And then they had the one category that was Bible, which was basically, let's get the nuns and the priests back into the mix here. Because everyone is knocking off 90s rom-coms, but you get into the Bible at a Catholic church trivia night, nobody knows what the hell is going on. But I'm at trivia night, and I'm seeing a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while. So the subject of my disappearance from the Milwaukee area radio waves came up. And I can't give you any other. I'm going to clarify something that, because there has been some speculation, and I'm going to clarify something because I'm very proud of this fact that for the first time in my life, my departure from a place of employment wasn't my fault. Now, I haven't been fired. I was fired twice. And one was I just didn't get along with my boss and they gunned me. The other one was a reduction in payroll, if you will. And so this was my third involuntary separation, if you will. And so immediately people think, oh, he must have been an a-hole or something like that. I am here to tell you it was not of my doing. I didn't do anything wrong. I haven't gotten a total straight answer. I have, but I haven't done anything wrong. That's all I'm saying. So if anyone was thinking I was out being a total, jag, I wasn't. It was just one of those things. Am I disappointed? Absolutely, I am. I mean, Drew and I had a killer thing going, just a killer thing going. And but apparently, powers that be didn't see it that way. That's all it is. And even after my non-compete is up and I can talk about it, that's all I'm going to say because that's all I really know. So we're going to get going with the show today. Oh, big fun tomorrow. I'm going to have a news person. A female news person, as a matter of fact, one of my students. And she's really funny. And I think her sense of humor might be drier than mine. And it's one of those things on the very first day of school, I go around and I ask students, what makes you interesting? And the reason I do that is I want to impart on them some wisdom that in order to get a good job, you just don't need a degree and good grades. In fact, good grades don't, in a non scientific or field or anything like engineering, you need good grades. Medical, you need good grades, right? You don't want to, if I have a doctor, right, I want to make sure that guy is summa cum, right? I don't want him sliding by on the curve because at some point they might put a finger up my ass and I don't want a 30% chance that they might be wrong or not knowing what they're looking for. But that's just me. So I try and impart on them that it's their personality that is going to get them the jobs and not necessarily their grades. Their grades will get them looked at. But it's their personality. And what do they do to stand out and be interesting? So going around the room and the girl who's going to be coming on and taking a shot at doing news tomorrow, I said, so what makes you interesting? And she spit back immediately. I was born in the meth capital of the United States. And I went, you're my girl. Man, when you don't even know your teacher and you can drop that on him, day one, the first words out of your mouth are, I was born in the meth capital of the United States, which, by the way, is apparently Springfield, Missouri. And she has gone on, and each class amazes me with her grasp of knowledge of pop culture and just odd things. And so I said, hey, you want to come on and do a podcast? She goes, I always wanted to do a podcast. And I said, okay, well, let's take a stab at this. So she will be on. Yes, Brent, she does have a drier sense of humor than Sam Elliott. Oh, by the way, speaking of Sam Elliott, I have not gotten to season 2 of Landman yet. But I have watched season 1, and Billy Bob is incredible. And I've always liked him. Pretty much just anything he does, I've really liked. But I really like him in Landman. And he has been an inspiration for me because, I've gone through, I kind of went through this without having a job. I went through this, I guess, COVID stage, if you will. And so what do? You don't have to go anywhere. So at night, you might, booze a little bit. And so I was crushing bourbon. I mean, now I wasn't sitting there getting totally shit-faced, right? But I was cruising through the bourbon pretty. Sue's coming home. Hold on a second. I gotta shut my door. Hey, Kenneth, Mom's home. Kenneth, you gonna go see Mom? Come on, go on. All right, go see Mom. All right. Mom's there. Got it. Okay. Otherwise, he's going to be running in and out. There we go. I'm back. So anyway, I was pounding some drinks, and so I said, I gotta cut this out. I gotta, because it's one thing to have a couple of pops, but it's another thing to pound whiskey, because that's a drinker's drink. And so I had been watching Landman, and I switched to Mick Ultra. Because in the TV show, Billy Bob's an alcoholic, and he orders Mick Ultras, and his rationale is this isn't drinking, and he's not wrong. So now I throw back a few Mick Ultras every once in a while, and I don't feel as bad, because it's all about how you feel on your own, right? That's what it is. So today, what I want to talk about, I want to wish everybody here a very happy National Egg McMuffin Day. It is National Egg McMuffin Day. The Egg McMuffin, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, now I had worked for 5 years when I first got out of school as a marketing director for a franchisee, a McDonald's franchisee. And so I knew an awful lot about McDonald's and Ray Kroc and the like. I also put $25 a paycheck into McDonald's stock purchases. And yeah, that's going to get me through about 6 years of retirement. So pretty solid stuff. Less if I get audited, but I'm counting on about 6 years. So it's National Egg McMuffin Day, which I believe was invented. The Egg McMuffin was invented by a guy in Pennsylvania, I want to say. And it was designed to get people to be able to eat breakfast in a drive-through. So what did they do? They took basically your toast and eggs and breakfast meat, slammed it together, and came up with the Egg McMuffin. And there you go. A whole new way of eating breakfast was born. But National Egg McMuffin Day. And I can give you some fun facts, which I learned about McDonald's and breakfast. Now, a lot of people are upset because McDonald's went to all-day breakfast. And I was out, I'm like, what the hell? Why would you go to all-day breakfast? And I met the guy. I was having dinner with a buddy of mine who was a franchisee, and he lived out in Phoenix. And I was having dinner with him at his house. And the old, Paul Schrage is his name. He was like the old marketing icon of McDonald's, which I couldn't believe because I was in my 20s, and I was like, oh my God, I'd love to meet Paul Schrage. And here I am having dinner with him. And then another guy. And they asked me what I thought about breakfast all day. I'm a burger for breakfast guy, not a breakfast for dinner guy. Right. And they said, well, you know why we came up with it, don't you? And I said, no, it doesn't make any sense to me. And here's what it was, is that they went through all the research, and McDonald's food after breakfast compared to everybody else has really bad ratings. And, it does. It's not the greatest, but their breakfast just kills everybody in terms of food quality. So the guy said to him, hey, if breakfast is our best item and it's the stuff that people love the most, why aren't we selling it all day? Ran a test market, boom, it exploded. And I probably went from 4 years to 7 years on my retirement during that one little time period. But the Egg McMuffin, of course, it started there. And that got me thinking about, because through all the years that I was working there, and here's the other thing that I have to tell you, and people don't believe me, and unless they've changed this, but I don't believe that they have. But yeah, all the eggs that they make in the breakfast sandwiches and stuff like that, they're all fresh cracked eggs. Whether you believe it or not, they are all fresh cracked eggs. As a matter of fact, a buddy of mine who owned these McDonald's sent us those Egg McMuffin egg rings. You just crack it. You put it in there. He said, you crack it, you put it in there. You got to take the tip of a fork and you got to break the yolk. You let her sit and cook, then you pop it off, flip it over, call it a day. But the Egg McMuffin, let's get back to the Egg McMuffin. It is National Egg McMuffin Day, and I guess they were going selling them for $1 a piece, which can't beat. Kenny's going nuts. Must be somebody delivering something, which then means that Sue is going to yell at me because he goes absolutely crazy over that. He's pretty good about other things, but someone comes to the door, drops something off, which then means I have to explain what I ordered, and I'm not exactly sure what I ordered. See whiskey comment. But anyway, so it got me thinking about, I had gone through a lot of years with McDonald's and a lot of test markets and stuff. So I decided that what I was going to do, and I'm going to do that right now, we're going to get my top 5 earlier today, and I'm going to give you, yes, a Pittsburgh franchisee. I'm going to give you my top 5 favorite McDonald's items. And I'm telling you, number 1 is going to turn some heads. So why don't we just get started? So my number 5 is not the Egg McMuffin, it's the sausage McMuffin with egg. Canadian bacon, fine when they started out, but you know what? Canadian bacon, it's ham. Okay, Canada, it's just a round piece of ham. Nothing different, but sausage, the sausage McMuffin kicks the Egg McMuffin's ass. That's all I'm saying. It kicks the Egg McMuffin's ass, the sausage McMuffin with eggs. So that comes in at number 5. Number 4, and a lot of people would think that this would be even higher, but number 4 for me, the French fries, right? And why is it not higher? Because there's 3 other ones that are coming after this. But McDonald's French fries are pretty tough to beat. Now, when I was working there, and this goes back a very, very long time, that's when everyone got all into the, this is when you get the health conscious people that all start bitching, right? McDonald's is bad for you. And McDonald's fries used to be so good because they were made with beef tallow. And, of course, you get some special interest group that goes off unhinged, and then McDonald's has to change to vegetable oil. The fries, while still good, are not as good as they used to be. And pro tip, if you're ever in a foreign country and you want to taste what McDonald's fries used to taste like, go there because it's all the old stuff. It's not the stuff you get in the United States. But it's pretty hard to argue with the McDonald's fry. Now, of the fast food fries, I would say, and I'm going to say, of the 4 that are basically around here, I'm not going to get into Five Guys and stuff like that, but of the fast food fries, McDonald's is right there. Culver's is right there. The big, thick crinkle cut is right there. Wendy's and Burger King just flat out suck. And don't argue with me because I'm right. Coming in at number 3 is the original McDonald Land cookies. I don't know what person at McDonald's decided that they needed to discontinue this product, but these magnificent bastards were delicious. They were animal crackers, and they were just carved into the Mayor McCheese and Ronald McDonald and stuff like that, but those were the best cookies. So chocolatey chip, not bad. Now they went to the 3 big chocolate chip cookies. And no, man. The McDonald Land cookies right there out of the box. That was the absolute best. Coming in at number 2, and this is a lot of people's favorite. There are people that are quite adamant that this is the best product. That would be the McRib, the McRib. Now, I will say this, it is absolutely one of my favorite, but it's a little too saucy. However, if you get the large fries, and maybe not a large, but any fries, okay, I highly suggest that you take like one of the fries and you scrape all the sauce off and you can put it in the top of that box. and then you have some barbecue sauce dipping for your French fries, and then you're not going to wear the entire Mac rib. But the pickles and the onions on there, unbelievable. Yeah, okay, it looks like it's got fake ribs. Of course it's processed meat, right? And it looks like those are real ribs. No, they're not. They're just trying to fool us. But I will say this, and I love Quick Trip, but this is a lightning rod issue. And there are people that are saying Quick Trip's rib sandwich is better than McDonald's, and they're full of it. Okay. The Mac rib is the best. Now, what we used to do is we'd go back on the grill, right? And when they had the McRib, because you would cook them on the grill, then you dump them in the sauce, and then they'd sit in the sauce. But we go back, this is how far back I go. They had salads. They had chef salads, okay? So we made, I guess you would call it McCheese steaks, but they're not steaks, so McCheese rib steaks. And we take the Mac rib and we put it on the grill and fire it up. But then they had salads at the time. So we would get the onions for the McRib. And then in the salads, they had green pepper rings. So we would get the onions and the green pepper rings and we'd throw those on the grill. And you fry those things up with the Mac rib. And then you put them on top of the Mac rib, and then you take your cheese and slap it on the top, and you let that melt over the top. So you had kind of like a McCheese steak, which pretty much kicked ass. That was pretty solid. Let's see how I'm doing here. Dan O'Donnell, he catapulted past me. Damn. Oh, well, there's a war going on that I'm not going to talk about, but that's all different. And then we're getting back down here then to my number one all-time favorite McDonald's food item. Yes, the Big Mac snack wrap. I'm sorry, the Big Mac snack wrap was the best. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I mean, you certainly can do whatever you want. But the Big Mac snack wrap, I still make these things at home. Right? You just take your hamburger, you chop it up, you get your pickle, your Thousand Island dressing, you throw some onions in there, throw some lettuce on the top, and wrap it up. And that was the best, the Big Mac snack wrap. I can't crush a Big Mac, and just because common sense stops me from doing it. You can't eat half a Big Mac. It's too sloppy. But the Big Mac snack wrap, man, they had something going with that. I don't know why they killed it, other than it was probably taking sales away from the Big Mac. So they said, we can't do that. We got to get rid of this to save the Big Mac. But the Big Mac snack wrap is awesome. Now, here's the other thing. Here's something, too. And Drew does this. And I didn't even think of this. Now, if you were doing this on the Food Network and you were a chef and in a competition show, they would say, what is your dish? And then someone would go, I've prepared for you a deconstructed Big Mac. So what it is, it's the Big Mac salad. And so Drew taught me about this one. He said, yeah, you just make salad and you throw your onions and your pickles in and your Thousand Island dressing. Then you make a hamburger and you just chop it all up the hamburger and you throw it into there. Nathan, when it comes to the Big Mac, just delete the middle bun. Yeah, it's the middle bun. Here are your problematic issues with burgers. And this is true of any burger anywhere you go. When you start adding a middle, same thing kind of with a club sandwich, although not as severe. But you got what I find to be most problematic is the lettuce. Okay, when you have lettuce like on a burger somewhere, because lettuce is just like a sliding agent, right? It causes a lot of sliding and shifting. And so you don't get the same, mouth crunch, and you don't get all the tastes exploding in your mouth at the same time, if you will. But the Big Mac salad, try it sometime. Or as he would say on the Food Network, I've done a deconstructed Big Mac. But the Big Mac snack wrap, and I make them at home, man. They're awesome. They are absolutely awesome. So those are my top 5, and we can run through those again if you like. Coming in at number 5 is my sausage McMuffin with egg. Number 4, McDonald's fries. Number 3 is the McDonald Land cookies, and number 2 is the McRib, and number 1 is the Big Mac snack wrap. Now, let me point this out. One thing that people bring up all the time, they go, why is Coke at McDonald's so much better than anywhere else? And so I asked my buddy that, who owns all these McDonald's, and he said, because the machine that they have, it's like a finely tuned, perfect, like computerized dispenser. And they have gotten it down to a science where it dispenses the Coca-Cola at the exact proportions of the original Coca-Cola recipe. And it's calibrated to that. And that's why it tastes so good. And apparently, once you open a can of Coke, it's why you take a can of Coke, that's why the first drink is always so good. In fact, Sue and I would fight over it. If I was drinking regular Coke, it's like, I get first drink, and that's the best. After that, because air is mixed with it, it's not as good. Here we go. Nathan, Big Mac with 2 quarter-pounder patties was a high school fave of mine. Oh, man. That's pretty killer. Now, we used to make, I mentioned at McDonald's, we made the McCheese steak, even though it wasn't steak. So it's kind of like a McRib steak, if you will. But here's another one to try. A friend of mine, Angelo, taught me this. And what it is the McSurf and Turf. Now, you're going to look at me and say, this is freaking, you're an idiot. This is crazy. No, I'm not. Here's what you do with the McSurf and Turf, right? You order a fillet of fish, and then you order a plain cheeseburger. And what you do is you take the bottom off the fillet of fish, and then you put the top, take the top off the cheeseburger, and you put the bottom of the cheeseburger beneath the fillet of fish, and you got yourself a McSurf and Turf. And you're going to think that's crazy, but it's fantastic. Now, there was another one that I saw on social. Jeff Daniels was on a show, of course, from Dumb and Dumber, and what was it? The Paper. The Newsroom on HBO. Anyway, great actor. But he said, they asked him what his favorite sandwich was. And this is it's like you look at it and you go, okay, you were high in college and this is all you had in the house. And he goes, you take a piece of pita bread, and on half of it, you put about, he said, a 1/4 inch of peanut butter on half. And so once you get the 1/4 inch of peanut butter on there, he goes, then you get Ruffles, cheddar, and sour cream potato chips. And it's like, okay, you got me there. I can see that, right? I can see the cheddar cheese potato chips and the peanut butter. That is not a stretch there. But then he said, then you get your favorite barbecue sauce and you spray it over the top and fold it in half and eat the sandwich. Now, I have not done this yet, but the guy who tried it said, my God, this is the most incredible thing in the world. So I don't know if anyone's done it. If anyone wants to do it, report back. Please do, but I'm going to try that. But the problem is salty snack treats are my downfall. Which reminds me, I'm still at 216.5. I kind of slacked off, but I'm gonna fire it up now. You see rapid weight loss on my part. But once you get those ruffles in the house, forget it. They're gone. I mean, there is no. It's either 3 ruffles or the bag. That's it. There is no in between for me. And Sue has never gained a pound. She has not gained a pound since college. And that's not hyperbole. She has literally not gained a pound. To the fact that every year on our wedding anniversary, she puts on the wedding dress and it fits. But she can go and have like 4 or 5 ruffles. That's it. That's all she needs. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Let's see. What do we got? Nathan, the McGangbang is a McDouble with the McChicken inserted in the middle. It used to be about $2 when your kids were in high school. Yeah, that's my son used to do that in high school too. You get the $1 chicken and the $1 McDouble, and for $2, you can't beat that. But my wife can do that. I can't, but I'm going to try that sandwich. If anyone wants to try and report back to me, please do. So another national day, I saw this and I had to do a little research on it. But today, and for those of you who like my dry sense of humor, you will like my take on this. So today is National Read a Book Day, or they also call it National Dr. Seuss Day, which is a good day to sit down and read a book, or read a book to your kids, or just, it's a day when you and your kids are supposed to read. Now, sadly, according to government statistics, 69% of 8th graders will be unable to participate in National Read a Book Day because they are not proficient in reading. They might be able to crack off those Dr. Seuss books, but we do need to read more. I don't, and I freely admit it. And I would like to read more, but I don't know why I don't. I don't seem to want to read, and I wish I could. I read on planes. I would read on planes, but I would read, I suppose, I wouldn't say garbage novels, but they weren't the best novels in the world, right? I would read like John Grisham novels and a lot of Stephen King I read, and it's they're not great works of literary art, but on a plane they're great because they're page turners and you can kind of get lost in them and keep going. And but that is National Read a Book Day. And last book, a really good book that I read most recently is, if you want to read a good book, written by a friend of mine, John Haynes. In fact, I may have him on as a guest. Hayner is a really good friend of mine, and Hayner is the impetus for Zabe, the. Hayner is a great golfer. He was ranked in the top, for the years, the top 50 in the state of Wisconsin. And so his nickname was, hey, it's the Hayner. That's what everyone called him, the Hayner. But then on his golf ball, when you had him imprinted, it was Hayner, the. So when Zabe came on the air and Red Hot Tim Scott was calling him the Zabe, I was like, third person? Really? You're going with the third person on that? Seriously? And I busted Zabe's balls about it. And he goes, hey, it wasn't my idea. And I said, but you approved it. And then one day on the show, I said, I started calling him Zabe, the. And that's a tip of the hat to Hayner. But the last book that I read was a book that he wrote called Danny Moe. And it's a golf book. And it may be one of the best golf books ever written. And it's a story of a guy who was a top amateur. And one day was playing over the bluffs of Lake Michigan. And it's a story of redemption and family struggles. I mean, there's a lot of depth to it, but he was playing and making a charge in the state open and hit a ball down the cliffs, and he was never heard from again. We don't know. It's kind of like Eddie and the Cruisers, right? No one knows what happened to Danny Moe. But I think I'll have Hainer on. Maybe I'll do that one of these days. We can talk golf and we can talk writing and we can talk Danny Moe, because it's really a good book. So look it up. And it's right up there with the greatest game ever played. And a couple of Good Walk Spoiled is John Feinbaum's book. Feinstein, the guy who wrote The Season on the Brink when he followed Indiana basketball around for a year. So National Read a Book Day. Here we go. News. We're going to get into some news here. Yeah, we went to war in Iran. I'm just going to let that one sit. My mind is, everything. It's just reeling. I'm not even going to get involved in this. Years ago, there was a movie. I want to say Dustin Hoffman was in it. It was called Wag the Dog. And if you're unfamiliar, wagging the dog, it's kind of like misdirection. You do something over here so no one sees what's happening over on the other side. And you're trying to distract people from what's going on. And then so you look at it and you go, the news cycle that we've got going is just so freaking fast. So we have, within the last 3.5 weeks, I'd have to check the days. Within the last 3.5 weeks, we have gone from Somali fraud in Minneapolis to ICE raids in Minneapolis to the Clintons testifying to the State of the Union to the war in the Middle East. And that's like in 3.5 weeks that all went down. It feels like it's 5 years of stuff. The news cycle is so freaking fast. And then meanwhile, the whole family of Nancy Guthrie is going, hey, our mom is still gone. What's going on here? I'm still standing behind the son-in-law thing, but I'm not going to be out there advancing any wacko theories, but that's kind of where I'm living on that. So I haven't caught up on that at all over the last couple of days, and I may just dive into that a little bit, see where we're going on, other than the fact that I did read something. And this is really, man, I wish people would stop doing this because, but there's no going back. I mean, this is America now, right? And there are literally fights going on out in front of their house, Nancy Guthrie's house in Tucson, between influencers trying to get the best location, for their shots. I saw a girl like in a tight top and a low cut top and high shorts standing and posing in front of that. And it's like, really, that's what, yeah, well, that is. It's all about internet clout. I have no internet clout. I have none. I mean, I'm just hanging out here trying to do this. And I got 303 subscribers. If anybody else wants to, if anybody else out there wants to, you want to pass it along. I wish there was a way I could say whoever can recruit the most subscribers, I could give a prize to, but there's no way to do that. There's no way to track it and have any proof. But there are people out there. It's like, how twisted do you have to be to go to the point of an abduction and stand in front of it while the investigation is still going on? Now, I had a friend who was out in LA and went and got a picture taken at Bundy, right by that back gate, which I believe that whole back area has been redesigned. So you don't even know where it is anymore, much like tearing down the Ed Gein house or the apartment building on 26th and Kilbourne, which was Jeffrey Dahmer's hangout. So he might have, so my boy, Paul might have been the original influencer, and I can close my eyes and see the picture and it's kind of funny, but to go out there while the investigation is still going on and they're getting in fights out in front. If you want to see something really pathetic, just look up Nancy Guthrie on the YouTubes, and you'll see people just broadcasting live, just going around the neighborhood sleuthing on their own. And that's all from the whole thing with that movie that was on Netflix, which is a freaky movie. If you ever get to watch it, Don't F with Cats. And they tracked down how people saw a guy kill a cat in a video on YouTube and then looked at the YouTube video, and based on the things in the guy's room, were able to track down over like a year who this guy was. I mean, they looked at the outlets in the walls, so they knew he was in Europe because it wasn't an American outlet. They looked at the warning on the side of the pack of Marlboro Lights that was sitting on his bedstand. Zoomed in on it, were able to read it and then track that back. Oh yeah, Nathan, the Epstein files thing. Sure, the Epstein files. I think I was in the Epstein files. Everybody's in the Epstein files. I may actually be in there. But the Epstein files came out too. That's right, Nathan. I forgot about that. So anyway, that news cycle goes so fast. And speaking of news cycles, here we go. How about a little news? Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to have a new news person on. But here's a little news for you. Yesterday, and this is the only thing I can say about sports, but it's not about sports necessarily. Yesterday, Marquette retired Marcus Howard's jersey. Now, it used to be they would retire numbers, but that got into a big deal, big harangue with when George Thompson was brought in on it. You know, they wanted to retire somebody else, somebody's number, but George Thompson already had the number retired, or someone wanted his number. I don't remember the particulars. But they said, no, we don't retire numbers. We just retire the jersey now. Which, okay, so you retire that jersey. Theoretically, everyone's jersey is retired when they change jerseys, but it's not hanging in the rafters. So when I was teaching at Marquette, I had a class with, and the three, I remember really only 3 students from this class, because I have so many students. And this is what goes back to that, make an impression so I can remember you, right? And so I have 3 students that I remember. There was Marcus, Sam Hauser, both in the same class, and then a guy who I will only refer to as Frat Boy Dan. Let me tell you the Frat Boy Dan story first. I couldn't believe this. It's the most unbelievable thing. Frat Boy Dan, he was a lovable train wreck. That's about the only way I can put it. He was a very lovable train wreck, just a nightmare. And I wish I could have, because I'm going to show you a text, and I wish I would have pulled his up. But he was on a full academic ride at Marquette. How? I don't know. But he would come into class, and I taught the class from, I want to say from 5 to 7:30. I think it was 5 to 7:30 one night a week. And so Frat Boy Dan, I remember sitting there one day, and just I'm lecturing, and right out in the middle of class, right, he just jumps right into the middle of class and just blurts out, "Hey, you want anything from Shake Shack?" I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm ordering from Shake Shack. You want anything?" I'm like, "No, I don't want anything." Okay. You know, and sure enough, he ordered food to be delivered from Shake Shack to the classroom, which I'm not going to lie, I kind of laughed about. But I've got Marcus and Sam in the class, right? And that was the year. That was the last year that Sam and Joey Hauser played at Marquette. And Dan knew both of them very well, so he knew the inside story of what was going on with that situation. And one day when I can talk sports, perhaps I will play that for you. I also had a very long, in-depth interview with Marcus Howard for the Drew and KB show the day before he came into my office out there, sat down, did a really great long interview. And then the very next day, when we were going to play it, the next morning, the whole Sam Joey Hauser story broke, and so we couldn't use it. It's still sitting there. But so I had Marcus, Sam, and Frat Boy Dan. And this is the year that Marquette gets absolutely torched by John Morant in the NCAA. They had gone on a 5-game losing streak to end the season. It was just, I mean, they just collapsed. So the Marquette is playing in the tournament, and the game is going up. I think the game started probably at, I don't know, 4, maybe it was one of those 4:30 tip-offs or something. And of course, that was going to run into the game that was going to run into class. So what I did was I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Class will start 22 minutes after the conclusion of the Marquette game, which is the same time that they start the second game in the NCAA tournament. It's always 22 minutes. And I will be running it up on the projector if you're going to come in. If you don't come in, I get it. No big deal. And they absolutely get hammered. And I know I'll get corrected on this by someone out there, but I think, didn't John Morant play for, was it Robert Morris? I think it was Robert Morris. In fact, yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was. But for this story, we'll just assume it was Robert Morris. And so what happens is they get blown out, right? So I start class, and I've got my phone sitting on the table, and my phone buzzes. And I look down, and I had a preview on the text. I look down on the text, and it's from Frat Boy Dan. And it says, not going to make it to class. And to be honest, or like full disclosure, he goes, I'm not going to make it to class. I just hammered Robert Morris on the money line. It's like, all right, I get it. So, okay, Frat Boy Dan's not going to be coming. What happens is about 10 minutes later, the door opens and he walks in with a full cocktail. And he's just bulletproof. And he's like, yeah, I thought I'd still come to class to make sure I didn't hear back from you, make sure that I would get credit for attending. And it's like, Dan, you tested me during class. Yeah, I'm going to give you credit. And I just, pushed him out the door. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of laughing. I'm like, that's some balls. Right there. I got to give him style points for that. Although I couldn't keep him there. But anyway, getting back to Marcus and Sam. Marcus and Sam were two of the best students that I've had. And I'm not saying best student athletes. I'm talking great students. They were both very, very good students. I've had 4 basketball players over the years. I had Marcus, Sam, and Cam Jones. And another one who I'm not going to tell you about because he was a turd. But those 3 were all exceptional students. And Marcus was really a good student and a great guy, just a really fine, upstanding young man. And I sound so old when I say that, but I mean, he really, really was. And he was, one day Drew was on a treadmill and they were playing a game. I don't know who they were playing. He's on a treadmill. He's watching the Marquette game, and they do one of those things where the screen comes up and it says, Marcus Howard, sophomore or junior, blah, 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 favorite class advertising. So I sent them a text. I go, so you love my class that much? He goes, no. He goes, actually, I do. That's what I was thinking of. So Marcus thought that I had Murray State. Okay, so it's Murray State. Robert Morris, Murray State. I mean, yeah, all right. Okay, whatever. But you knew what I was saying. So he goes, no. He goes, this is the favorite class that I have. And I was like, I was kind of, honored by that. Nice kid. Well, anyway, he graduates, he goes off, does some time with Denver, goes and plays in Europe. And he's coming back for the Jersey retirement. So Friday night, I just shoot him a text. I don't even know if his number is the same. I would assume it's not, right? I don't know if his number is the same. So I just shoot him a text. I said, congratulations, Marcus. You had a great career. I followed you on Instagram. I know how hard you worked. He's married. He has a kid. And I'm like, I just said to him, I just want you to know you were one of the best students that I ever had, not student athletes, students. And it's well-deserved. And I get this back and I just about crap my socks. My man, my favorite teacher while at Marquette, so very grateful for the time spent with you. And it is times that I am able to come back to relive great times. And mine with you was one of them. Thank you so much. And God bless you, my friend. I just about crapped my socks. I could not believe it. But, it's something like that that goes to show you exactly what a fine young man he really was. So congratulations to Marcus on that. And I'm not going to lie, it kind of gives me the feels. It gives me the feels. In other news, right here, Virginia Tech. I always love research studies that they do that are so freaking obvious what the outcome is going to be. And you go, God, I wish I could come up with one of those, because I could fund my whole retirement saying I'm doing a research study and, get millions from the government. And if you've ever wondered why they don't find cures for anything, it's because as soon as they find a cure, the money goes away. So they never really resolve those things. Some of the smaller ones they do, like this one, Virginia Tech did a driving study. It wasn't in a lab. What they did was they got cameras and sensors in thousands of, people's actual cars in Washington State and Virginia, tracked thousands of real-time driving, trips from 2021 to 2023. The drivers were anywhere from ages 21 to 71. Thousands of trips. What they were, though, these people were regular cannabis users. They were weed they were weed smokers or gummy takers or whatever. Cannabis users across Virginia and Washington followed them, and they wanted to figure out how their driving changes when people are sober versus after cannabis use. And here's what happened. Came out right early. You wonder what it might be? Well, here we go. They found that cannabis users tended to spike around lunch, and then again in the evening, specifically after 4:20, and specifically on Fridays. So 4:20 and lunchtime, all of a sudden, people were getting into their cars stoned. Go figure. But it matters because THC isn't like alcohol. There's no real number that you can tell when somebody's impaired. I think, a good test is that when you have a 15-minute drive home and you go 50 miles an hour, but it feels like it took 45 minutes, that would be a good test. Just saying. But here we go, as I said, and here's something. People tend to change their behavior when they're driving high. And what do? They often choose different routes, like more rural roads that they wouldn't take when they were sober. Really? So they take the back way home when they're high. You had to get research money to determine this. It's another one. It's like, give me half your money. I'm going to tell you how they do it. But unbelievable. We're paying for that, folks. We are paying for stuff like that. Here we go. I promise this one. Male humpback whales. Older whales are getting laid more. Yes. The humpback whales that are better singers. Okay. They're older and more experienced. They're increasingly more successful at siring calves than the younger males. They've got better voices. And if you've ever gone swimming in the ocean when whales have been around, it's the wildest thing in the world. And we were in Hawaii and went snorkeling. And as soon as you go under, because there's no outside noise, they could be miles away, but you can hear these whales. And it's absolutely wild. But they focused on humpback whales breeding in the South Pacific after about 2 decades of monitoring. And what they found was that the older males tended to have more reproductive success over time. So I guess it looks like that younger female whales have whale daddy issues. And the experienced males have an advantage. So there is still hope for all of us. Here's one that I never want to get caught with. And that is a physician assistant in Hawaii went to Costco to get her favorite Starbucks egg bites. Now, I've never had food at Starbucks other than like a cookie or a scone. But apparently they have egg bites that were pretty good. And Costco didn't have them, and she wasn't able to get them, so she wanted her egg bites for breakfast. So what she did was she went to a Starbucks drive-thru. Apparently these things run around $4, right? At the window, she was told that she got in the middle of one of those pay it forward things. She was going to get just some egg bites, but she got caught in the middle of a pay it forward thing. And she said, okay, I'll pay for the car behind me. $25. $25. She was only going to pay for it. Came back $25. Got caught in a pay it forward thing. And social media people said, hey, it's fine to break the chain and just say thanks, but no thanks. There's no requirement to keep paying it forward. But I think the Starbucks pay it forward thing is probably as annoying as the automatic tip thing when you go to check out. Definitely. It definitely is. This is another one. Anyone here know? It's like you're not going to tell me because I can't hear you. But there is doctors discovered an ultra rare anatomical condition called triphalia recently when they were working on a 78-year-old man whose body was donated to science. So they're going in and they're cutting it up. Well, triphalia, what it is the person has 3 penises. What they had found was he had his one penis sticking out there, and 2 were hidden inside his body, but not visible externally. He never knew about them during his life. And it was identified during a dissection by medical students in England. It's extremely rare. And only the second case of triphalia in medical literature. Now, what would you do? I mean, thank God 2 of them are hidden. Because if you had triphalia, so you have 3 penises and 2 hands, what are you going to do with that? Someone's going home lonely. Do you rotate? Do you go on a rotation? 3 peni. But they weren't externally obvious, so they didn't cause any symptoms. So he didn't know anything about it during his life. And then here's the other thing. If you had 3 peni, would you tell anyone? I don't think you could. I honestly don't think you could. I mean, it would probably pique some interest, and I'm sure people would want to see, but I don't think you could. Hey, something? What's interesting? I don't want to get that in the first day of class. Tell me something interesting about yourself. I have 3 penises. Okay, class is over. No, we're out. Nope. And then one last thing before I get to what color is the sky on your planet. This happened. This is going to be a video. This is going to be a video news story. I'm not exactly sure where this is. Not quite sure. But it's a soccer game where someone kicked the ball. And what they did was in kicking the ball, they hit a seagull. And when they hit the seagull went down. And what did they do? Did they stop the game? Well, they eventually stopped the game because one of the soccer players, instead of continuing the game, and they continue for anything in soccer, they just have the running clock, right? And they had extra time, stoppage time. But the goalie kicks the ball, hits the bird goes down, and watch what the player does. Gives the bird, he resuscitates the bird. He gives the bird CPR, and the bird was brought back to life right in the middle of a soccer game. Here's a seagull that did not fare so lucky. If you recall this one. Wow. Let's see that in slow motion, shall we? Wow. What are the odds? Randy Johnson with a 100-mile-an-hour heater just exploded that bird. But this one fared a little bit luckier. So now it brings us to the end of the show here, where we are going to talk about what color is the sky on your planet. And this story goes to Miami and the Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, because right now we're looking at spring break is coming around, and people are cracking down on spring break because students are getting way out of control. They've already done it in Daytona before. They did it in Panama Beach. And now Miami is getting in on the game, but they're not cracking down on spring break. They're trying to sell spring break differently. Now, I look at this very much the same as when Las Vegas tried to convince everybody that Las Vegas was for families, right? And that's why you see like roller coasters at New York and stuff like that, because they added all these family-friendly things. And I do recall Steve Wynn saying, yeah, that's fine and everything, but I've never seen a 14-year-old put $20,000 on the cum line, and he's not wrong. Okay. Well, so Miami is trying to change its image, if you will. And they launched an ad campaign that said, oh, no, you can still come to Miami for spring break, but we're going to do it a little bit differently here.
This March, Miami Beach will continue its beach restrictions, DUI checkpoints, and parking limitations. In other news, a man was woken up after 10 years. The first thing he wants to do with his new lease on life, partying like it's 2016. This March, Miami Beach will continue its beach restrictions, DUI checkpoints, and parking limitations. In other news, a man was woken up after 10 years. The first thing he wants to do with his new lease on life, partying like it's 2016.
Cut the music out. But you can see he's walking on the beach, and it's like, oh, he wakes up going to Miami for spring break. They're running marathons.
Excuse me, sir. There's no drinking in public.
No drinking in public? What kind of
Green
spring
juice?
break is that? Green juice. Then he gets knocked out. And
Oh, good.
then
He's breathing. Why don't you come play with us?
Gets pulled into a volleyball game. And there we go, Miami. I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. That is going to go belly up. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. One of these days, I'm going to figure out exactly how to work this fucking thing because I'm getting closer. That's all I can say. But that brings us to the end of today's show. I want to thank you for all hanging out. 70. Let's go check in and see how I'm doing. Now Dan O'Donnell's got me beaten 3-1. ESPN. I was beating them last week. But I'll take my 60 people because you are my people. And I appreciate it very, very much. I would have thought that Egg McMuffin and the Three Penis Man would have been enough of clickbait to get people to tune in, but apparently not. But anyway, I will be back tomorrow with our new news person. We're going to see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be fun. Probably going to be a train wreck. I don't care. It doesn't really matter because I got nothing better to do, and I will be heading in to about like day 83 of unemployment. And that is all coming up tomorrow. But until that time, as I always say, remember, make good choices.
And that's it for this episode of KB's Unemployed Show. If you want to follow me on my unemployed journey, just subscribe to my channel below or dive into one of the playlists for all my unemployed action. And that's it for this episode of KB's Unemployed Show. If you want to follow me on my unemployed journey, just subscribe to my channel below or dive into one of the playlists for all my unemployed action.